The dwarf was clutched in the giant's hand and was directly killed by the giant in the next second. Looking at the weak dwarf, the giant suddenly had an evil idea. He gathered a large number of giants and together launched a massacre against the dwarfs. They tasted the dwarfs for the first time and unexpectedly found that they were very delicious. So they began to hunt the dwarfs frantically. In the face of the giant's crazy slaughter, one dwarf managed to escape from the giant country. He thought he was finally safe, but unexpectedly, he met a giant dressed in white ahead. However, the giant didn't eat the dwarf. Instead, he took the dwarf back to the laboratory. The giant drew blood and injected it into the dwarf. In the next second, the blood gushed out of the dwarf's mouth. A drill was aimed at the dwarf's head. At the moment when the drill came down, a new dwarf was born. Then two dwarfs split into four, split into 8, and more dwarfs were produced under the drill. This was the method of producing dwarfs invented by the scientist. According to the research and development results, the giant transformed this place into a production workshop with an assembly line, and he himself became the boss of the assembly line. As long as his blood was injected into the dwarfs could split infinitely, and more dwarfs were produced. They were piled up like garbage. At this time, all the dwarfs in the giant country had been eaten by the giants. Just when they felt hungry, the scientist appeared with the dwarfs. He regarded the dwarfs as commodities and began to sell them to the giants at a high price. The giants lined up to buy them. They turned the cruel slaughter into a commercial chain. Just as they were chewing the food in their mouths, the body of one giant suddenly exploded into countless little people. Then all the giants who had eaten the dwarfs decomposed, and the dwarfs that had been eaten by them were resurrected. At the same time, in the laboratory on the other side, the scientist pulled the switch of the production line and stopped the production of the new generation of dwarfs, because his goal had been achieved. He tidied up his clothes and came in front of the dwarfs. The dwarfs covered their eyes in fear, afraid that history would repeat itself. Unexpectedly, at this time, the giant suddenly smiled and took off the mask on his head, revealing his true identity. It turned out that he was not a giant at all. Instead, he was a group of dwarfs who had escaped from the dwarf country. They gathered together to establish a laboratory and finally defeated the giant country with their wisdom and cleared away their invaders with high technology.